Hi socialites, are you looking for a detailed tutorial on the pattern drafting of the princess dart with front zipper? Then look no further. So with that being said guys, you're welcome to another beautiful, interesting and as always detailed tutorial. In this one, as you can see on me and also on your screen, I'm going to be taking you through a detailed process of drafting your pieces dressed with a princess dart and zipper, just like I stated earlier. So if you're interested in this one, why not switch right back, relax and enjoy watching. But before we delve into that, as you can see on me, I'm putting on the longer version of this dress. That's to tell you that with this pattern I'm going to be teaching you, you can make use of the pattern to elongate your dress and make it long if the longer one is what you prefer. So with the pattern that I am going to be drafting, which is the short dress, you can also use that to make a longer one, so that saves you a lot of time and energy. You can see how beautiful this pieces dress came out on different people. That's to tell you that this dress is a must-have for any type of body figure. So with that being said guys, let's dive right into the tutorial. So this is the placement of the pattern paper I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using the longer length of the pattern paper because this is a dress, a short dress, so I had to even add to the length of the pattern paper so that I can achieve the length of the dress that I'm going to be making. Okay, and here are the tools I'm going to be using. So to get started, I'm going to be marking out all the vertical measurements, and by vertical measurements I mean all the measurements from the shoulder downwards. Okay, so I start with the armhole length, which is 8 inches, and then the breast point, which is 10 inches, and then the under bust, which is 13.5 inches, the half waist, which is 16.5 inches, the shoulder to the hip, which is about 25 inches, and then the dress length. The dress length here is 42 inches. Okay, so I mark that on the center part of the pattern paper, and I'm going to be doing the same thing to the other end of the pattern paper as well. So these are all the vertical measurements that I'm going to be using for this measurement, and afterwards I have them connected horizontally, just as you can see me do. Afterwards, all the points were written out for clarification while I draft. So I have the armhole, the breast point, the under bust, all the way to the dress length. Okay, so for the dress, we know that it has a zipper at the front. Okay, and this particular point is going to be my center fold, so all the measurements are going to come from here. So the next thing I will do is just to mark out the zipper allowance from the center fold, which is 1.5 inches. So from the center I mark 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance, and I have the zipper allowance mark out connected all the way from down to the top. So like I said, this is my zipper allowance, and then the next thing I'm going to be marking is the shoulder divided by 2. So we have a shoulder of 16 inches divided by 2, which gives us 8, and I come down to the armhole length. I mark the same 8 inches, and I have the armhole length connected horizontally, vertically. From this top here, I'm going to be coming down by 3/4 of an inch, that is 0.75. that's for the shoulder slant. And from that point to the armhole, I'm going to be getting the midpoint. So to get that, I have my tape folded into 2. So this is the middle, and then at this midpoint I'm going to be coming inward by 1/2 inch. Okay, so I mark 1/2 inch, and then it's time for me to connect the armhole. But before I do that, I'm going to be dividing the bust measurement by 4. So from the center line I get the bust measurement divided by 4, and I have that marked. So these are the 3 points for the armhole connection. So I got my armhole curve, and then I connected the armhole curve just like so. So the next thing is to get the neck waist, which is 2.5 inches because it is a close-up neckline with a bishop collar. So I use 2.5 for the width and 2.75 for the neck depth. So I have that marked, and at the zipper allowance also I mark the same neck depth, and then I connect with the straight line at this point, and then with my curve rule I mark out the neck curve. So at this point I'm going to be connecting the shoulder slant from the shoulder to the base of the neck. So from this our center line, I'm going to be dividing the breast distance measurement by 2, and then I start that measurement from the breast point. So the breast distance divided by 2, I got 3.25, and then I'm going to be marking that from the breast point all the way down to the breast length, after which I have all the points connected with the straight line. So for the princess dart, I'm going to be connecting from this breast point to the armhole. So I'll use this a little bit curvy area of the curve, and then I mark like so all the way across the armhole. So at the under bust, I'm going to be marking 1 inch between the dart line, and I'm going to be connecting with my curve from the under bust right to the breast point, just as you can see me do. And just to avoid this point being too pointy, so I
got the bottom of my cowl and I have it well or perfectly curved just like so. So the next thing is to have this point from the underbust connected back to the dart line, and to get that I'm going to be getting the distance between this half waist length and the shoulder to the hip, and I get the midpoint. So that's where this connection to the dart line is going to terminate, so that it joins back to the dart line all the way down. And for this princess dart line extension here, the extension is supposed to be by 2 inches. So from this point, okay, that's this curve, this our armhole curve area, I marked 2 inches extension upward, and then that is going to give me the second armhole. So from that 2 inches, I just connect back to the armhole length, and this is going to give me the actual armhole we're going to be using. So the next thing we're going to be doing is to divide our body circumference measurement by 4. For the bust, we already did that and we got that at the armhole area. So the under bust round we divide by 4. So whatever that gives us, we are going to be adding this 2 inches dart allowance, and we have that added to it. So that is it for the under bust round. Then we'll come down to the half waist. We divide the waist measurement by 4, add the dart allowance, and then have that marked out. At the shoulder to the hip, we divide the hip measurement by 4. We are not adding any dart allowance to that. So we are going to be connecting all the way from the armhole down to the hip length. And from this hip length downwards to the length of the dress, I'm going to be connecting down like so. Before I do that, I get whatever I have at the hip area. I just add 2 inches to it at the dress length area, and then I have that connected with a straight line back to the hip length. This is to give that flairful look that it has, okay? And then at this bottom dress length, I'm going to be coming up by 1.5 inch, and then that's going to give me the curve at the lower part. So I have that connected back close to the dart line just like so. So at this breast point area, because we know that the half length of the front is always longer than the back, and the difference here is 1.5 inch, so I have that 1.5 inch marked from the breast point, and I have that connected back to the dart line like so. So all these are my cutouts that I'm going to be cutting. That's why I'm slashing them. So at this point, I'm going to be dividing my pattern paper into 2 so that I can draft out the back pattern. So for the back pattern, remember we already have our zipper allowance at the front, so there's no need for that at the back. So we'll just go straight by dividing our shoulder measurement by 2, and then have that marked at the upper pattern and then at the armhole length area, and we have that connected with a straight line just like so. And just like we did to the front, we'll come down by 3/4 of an inch for the shoulder slant, and from that 3/4 to the armhole length, I just get the midpoint of the leftover, and then from that point I'm going to be connecting my armhole down like so. So at this point, it's time for me to mark out the neckline. So for the neckline, I used the same width that I used at the front, but for the depth I used 1.5 inch, okay? And I have that connected just like so. So after that, I'm going to be connecting the shoulder slant, that's from the base of the neck to this point that I have here. And then for the breast distance measurement, we divided by 2 just like we did to the front. So from the center back, I have the breast distance measurement marked from the breast point all the way down to the length of the dress, and I have those points connected with a straight line. So for the princess dart at the back, we're going to be connecting back to the armhole, okay? So for the front, we can see that we use the midpoint for the connection, but for the back, we're going to be going above the midpoint, okay? So that's just basically the difference between the back and the front. So above the midpoint of the armhole, we connect over like so. And to avoid any sharp point, I have to use the bottom of the curve rule to adjust this particular point. You remember I already stated earlier that the half waist length for the front and back are not the same. The front is always longer than the back by either 1 or 1.5 inch, but in this case it's 1.5 inches. So I have to take out that 1.5 inches from the half waist length of the back. So at the half waist length of the back, I come up by 1.5 inch, and then I have that marked out just like so. So this is what I'm going to be taking out later. So as it stands now, this is our new half waist length for the back. So at that point, I mark ½ inch between the dart line, and then I'm going to be connecting upwards to meet the dart line at the breast point, just as you can see me do. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to be using the bottom of my curve rule once again to take out or eliminate any pointy edge at any point, okay? So at this point, I'm supposed to take out or cut out this 1.5 inch excess that I have here, but because I've not divided or separated the front and the back, I can't do that. So to proceed, I just mark ½ inch between the dart line like I did at the upper part, and then I'm going to be connecting those points back to the dart line. I want you to note at this point that by the time I take out this 1.5 inch that I already slashed here, it's going to match with the upper dart, okay? So I have those points connected back to the dart line, and then for the bust measurement, I already have that, so I came down to the under bust round measurement, divide by 4, add that allowance that I have here, and I have that added to the under bust round measurement. And then at the half waist length, which is this point, okay, this is our new half waist length for the back, I'm going to be getting the waist measurement. I divide by 4, and then I measure the dart line, which is 1 inch, and I have that added to that point, okay. And then at this other point, whatever I have at this point, I mark the same thing because they are going to be joined together by the time I cut off that point. And then at the hip measurement divided by 4, so from this hip measurement divided by 4, whatever I have, I'm going to be adding 2 inches, just like I did to the front basically. And then I'm going to be having those points connected from the armhole down to the length of the dress. Remember that I made it wider at the lower part so that it gives that flare look. So at the bottom part, like so, just like I did to the front, I come up by 1.5 inch, and then I have that connected back to the dart line like so, okay. So all these points that I have here, like I said, I'm going to be cutting out. So at this point, this is what it looks like. So I have the zipper bulge to take out both at the front and the back. So at the front, I'm going to be coming in by 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch depending on your preference, and then I'm going to be curving it inward like so. And automatically with this, the other parts of the zipper allowance is also going to be coming in by 1/2 inch, but this is going to be done on the fabric, okay. So at the back as well, I'm going to be coming in by 1/2 inch from the center back at the half waist length. So I mark 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to be having that connected upwards and downwards just like I did to the front. This is to give it a very fitted shape at the waist area, just as you can see on me. So at this point, this is what we have, and now we're going to be cutting out. So I already separated the front from the back. So for the breast, that it's either you fold like so, or you have it slashed and then pulled over each other, just as you see me do shortly. So I opened it up, and then I'm going to be taking this other part and then pulling it over the other one to cover the darts that I have at the breast area, and I have it held down with the help of my paper tape. And at this point, you can see that the bust is already taking shape. So I'm going to be adjusting this side like so, and then I'm going to be cutting along that part. So for the armhole cutting, just watch carefully how I cut this part. So I cut along this second armhole that I have like so, and then I come to the neckline area and the shoulder slant, I have it cut out. So for the armhole at this point, you can see the one I'm cutting. Please take note of this point so that you don't make any mistakes. So this is what it looks like at this point. So I take out the zipper bulge area that I already have marked out at this point, and next I'm going to be cutting along the princess dart line that I have. So I cut along from the under just like so, and then I'm cutting along the bustier princess area, and this is what it looks like for the cutting of the front, okay. So after the cutting of the front, you can see how it looks. This is actually exactly what you should have. For the back, I'm going to be doing the same. So the 1.5 inch, I have it folded over like so, or you have it cut out and then placed over each other. So for me, I have it slashed and then placed over and then held down with the help of my tape rule, and then I'm going to be cutting along all the points that I need to cut out. So I cut out this cover area at the bottom and then the side of the pattern paper. And just as I was about to get to the armhole area, I realized that I did not mark out the second armhole for the back. So just like I did to the front, I hope you remember, I extended the armhole by 2 inches, and I have that connected back to the armhole area. And with that, automatically there's already an adjustment at this point, okay. So this is what I have at this point. So I have that cut out. I'm so sorry for that error. So I continued with my cutting all the way with the rest part of the pattern paper, okay. So this is the bustier, that area of the back, and then this is what it looks like, and then this is the shoulder slant cutting. At this point, guys, if you haven't subscribed, please do well by clicking on the subscribe button. Thank you. So after the cutting of the back, this is what we have for the back, and then this is what we have for the front. So at this point, this is acting as the basic bodice, because we are going to be using this to cut the pieces dress in itself, okay. So to have that done, I get another piece of pattern paper, a plain one, and then I'm going to be placing each of the pieces on it to cut out the flared part. So I start with this one, okay. I mark out the underbust and the half waist so that I will know exactly where I'm cutting from. So from the half waist length, I place it on the pattern paper just like so, and then I'm going to be having it held down with my paper tape so that it doesn't move around. So after that, this is our bottom part of the dress. I'm going to be extending the point horizontally just like so. So at this extension, I'm going to be coming out by 5 inches depending on how wide you want yours to be. So I mark out 5 inches and I'm going to be connecting from that point to the half waist point, and that gives us this triangular look at this point. So this is what we have. It gives us a triangular shape, and then at this point I'm going to be coming up by 1 inch so that I can curve it back to the base of the pattern paper so that it's not pointy, and I'm going to be cutting along those parts. So this is what the cutting for this particular piece looks like. So after cutting, you can see this is what we have. Can you see? So we already have one piece. That this is the center front, and this is going to be cut in two. Okay, and then I get the next one, I place it on the pattern paper as well, and you can see the point. This is my half waist length, and then I make sure that I start my measurement from there. So because this is the part of the pattern paper that is at the side, so we are going to be adding our seam allowances at this side. Okay, so like I said earlier, because I want it to look like a flared dress, I'm going to be adding enough seam allowances. So at this lower part at the side of the pattern paper, I added 3 inches. Okay, and then at this side I added my normal 5 inches extension, just like I added to the other part. This is because I want it to look like a flared at the end of the day, just as you can see how it turned out. So I have that marked, and then I'm going to be connecting all the points like so. So at the bottom part, with the help of my curve rule, I connect like so. Okay, so this is what this looks like, and I'm going to be cutting out. So this is the side of the pattern paper where we are supposed to add our seam allowances. That is why I have the other 3 inches added to the other side added. So this is the cutting and how it goes. So after cutting, this is what this part looks like. This is the side of the front. Okay, so this is what we have, and next I'm going to be placing them together, and by the time I pretend to stitch them, you can see what it looks like. So at this point, you can see that one is longer than the other, and I'm going to be adjusting the length so that they are equal at the lower part. So you can see how full it looks at the lower part. That is exactly my point. So I continued with the rest, which is the back part. I placed it on it like so. So I'm cutting out the zipper bulge at the back before I proceed. So I placed it on the plain pattern paper as well. I have it held down just like I've done previously, and then I'm going to be extending the lower part horizontally just like so. So I added the extra 5 inches that I would normally add, but in this case I want to deviate a bit. So for this 5 inches, you can share it between the sides of the pattern paper. Do you understand? You can share it or you can add to one side. So at this point, let me share it on this part, but the thing is that it's going to give us the same results or the same outlook at the end of the day. So I shared the 5 inches on both sides of the pattern paper. That means I added 2 inches to one side and then 3 inches to the other side. You can use 2.5 on each side. So at this point, I made a mistake and marked on the 5 inches extension, which I'm going to be correcting shortly. At this point, you can see I already made a mistake, so I'm trying to correct it at the 3 inches point. So this is the correction being made. So this is the point I'm going to be cutting on, not the other 5 inches that I marked. So this is the cutting for the one that I shared the extra 5 inches on both sides. The thing is, like I said earlier, it's going to give you the same look at the end of the day. So whichever one you want, you go for it. So this is what it looks like. And after this, I'm cutting the last piece, which is this particular one. So I placed it, and for the front, remember, for the side, I added extra 3 inches at the side and then my normal 5 inches at the other side. Okay, the 3 inches is for the same allowances, and I used as much as 3 inches because I want it full at the lower part. So I connect on both sides just like so. This is the side of the back. The one I just finished cutting is the center side of the front or back, I mean. Okay, that's for the back. So I placed it over, and like I adjusted at the front, I also adjusted the length, and this is what we have. So at this point, I'm going to be cutting on my fabric, and with me here is this double beautiful Ankara fabric that I'm going to be using for this. So I'm going to be making use of these two prints, beautifully combining them, and let's see what it looks like. So after cutting, this is what I have. I take out my pattern paper, so I've cut everything, the interfacing, and I'll be putting stay as I proceed. So this is what it looks like, guys. So I'm going to be stitching, and then I'm going to be showing you the final look. So this is what the stitching should, the process should look like. So you just stitch all the way, and at the end of the day, this is what we have, guys. So this is what the outcome looks like, looking very beautiful. It is the fitting of this dress for me. The snatching at the upper and waist area, it's giving, guys. Okay, so and this is the essence of this tutorial, to make sure that the fitting is at 100%. And guys, this fitting is at 100%. You can see mine on me looking well snatched at the waist area and the down being as free as possible. Okay, so this is what your outcome should look like. So the yellow dress is for a client and the person has not come for pickup or fitting, so that's why I'm fitting it on the mannequin, because I couldn't get the body size that would fit this. Okay, so this is what it looks on the mannequin. It still looks very beautiful, so you can imagine what it would look on the actual owner. So guys, I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you guys for watching and see you in my very next one. Bye.